What's up, friends? Good Wednesday to you. Welcome into the YouTube MLB DFS rundown brought to you by DFSArmy.com. One-stop shopping, all things daily fantasy sports, MMA, PGA, doesn't matter what you play. Let's dive in and break this slate down in a few minutes and talk a little bit about a couple of tools, maybe how to set up our domination station optimizer depending on time, how we go today. Let's get this done in 10 to 12 minutes and roll on. While you're down there in the comments section checking out our VIP program, coupon code CHOP knocks 20% off. Like, subscribe, notify the videos so that you get those videos to your phone dropped right when they land on YouTube. So let's dive in. Let's move on. We're on our pitchers tab in the research station. We've already sorted it by K-score. And look at this one for Garrett Cole. My Lord, I don't know who he's facing tonight. Tampa Bay must be doing some striking out because you get yourself a giant K-score like that. You're going to want some Garrett Cole, probably your cash game pitcher. The alternate is always Jacob deGrom, as long as they stay synced up on the same slates. Also a good pivot, but Glasnow, if he's stretching out, might not be bad either. You're going to want smatterings in MME formats of all of these different pitchers. Going down, you're going to want to avoid the bottom above the barrel, but any of these guys are fair game. I would then take the W score and sort it by ascending order. Let's push these turkeys all the way to the bottom. And we don't have a lot of great W scores for bats. We don't have a lot of terrible W scores for pitchers. Today's an interesting day. It looks like off the top of the head, but down here on the bottom might be where I would stack, maybe up here towards Feddy, whatever you'd call him. Maybe even Stephen Brault. These would be guys, not that these other guys aren't stackable against, but I'd probably be focused on them first. So I look at a Brault. Cleveland comes into play, Fetty, Atlanta comes into play, and then maybe your Dodgers, Giants, interesting, LA Angels, and your Washington Nationals. Another thing to focus on, to be quite honest with you, you see total batters faced here. There's nobody for Dunning and Meisner making debuts. Another one that I might focus on if you're playing on the earlier slate is Jack Flaherty. Stack the Cubs. Jack Flaherty's on a pitch count limit, and the Cardinals have nobody in the bullpen. They got guys that have made like a couple of appearances in Double-A, coming in relief perhaps if everything shakes out. So you might want to stack up some Cubs. I would be looking for the teams that tend to give up a ton of runs. The teams that tend to give up a ton of runs right now, Detroit is one of those teams that's giving up a lot of runs. That means their pitching staff just generally sucks. That puts Chicago in a good spot. Seattle, so that puts the Dodgers in a good spot. Down here a little bit more, looking for some of these bad teams. Arizona, that puts Oakland in a good spot. Looking a little bit deeper, Pittsburgh, Cleveland again. Arizona, Oakland again. That's interesting. I don't Dodgers, Seattle, Dodgers. Okay, so those are 3 or 4. San Francisco Giants. That's the LA Angels. So there's a few of these particular teams that I would also take on as stacking partners for bats. If we dive over here into the pitching or the batting tab, and we do the same thing, we take that W score and we sort it this time by descending to bring the good batting matchups to the top. I do this every day, so if you need explanations on some of these things, ask me in Slack or just pay attention throughout the days and you'll start catching up pretty quickly. I look for numbers over about 600, sometimes down to 580. We'll do that in a second. I'm sorting this overall first to see who's popping. Minnesota, Washington, there's a Minnesota, there's a Washington again. There's some LA, it's a pretty wide scattering. There's no particular teams that are just all bunched up in these W scores. So I would stick to what I saw in the pitching tab with the teams that I noted. I would go position by position though, and I would start looking for guys carrying big W scores. 645, if this adjusts, that's big for catchers. Down to about 5. So these top 3 guys, Garver, Castro, Kelly. Those would be the catchers I'd be most focused on today. When it comes to boosting projections in my optimizer, what that's going to do is give me more of them than it otherwise would. It's not going to give me a ton of them necessarily, but it was going to give me more. And that's all I want. I want increased shares of these guys. Down here again, Thames, Sano, Freeman, maybe Carlos Santana. Come down here to second base. Slide back over, look for anything over 600, 580 to 600. See, when I see 600s and 580s, that's a general mark for me. Even the 576 is okay. So Lastea, Marte, Dietrich, fine. I'm looking for big drop-offs too, though. I want the guys in the top tier. So when I'm looking at shortstops, there is no 600 here. So he's not probably in as good a matchup as some of those other guys we saw with 600s. But the top 2, 3, 4 guys on the in the shortstop position, Cabrera, or third base, excuse me, Cabrera, Bregman, Seager, Arenado. Interesting how this position's a little bit deeper and it's not quite as strong today. That's actually very interesting. So we go to shortstop. Same type of thing. Correa's story, maybe Seager. But see, I'm less apt to take these guys below 580. And like I said, all I'm doing is boosting them in the projections of the optimizers. I'm not really doing much else. I'll show you how we're going to set the optimizer up here in a little bit. So come down here, ooh, 700 something. Nelson Cruz might be, and Juan Soto might be the 2 biggest plays on the slate based on matchup. They should have decent days. Does it mean they're going to hit a home run? I don't know. Does it mean they're going to go 2 for 4 with 2 doubles and 6 RBIs? I don't know. It means they should be in a good spot to have a good day. All the way down here to the 580s or so, since that's our mark today. Peterson, Eaton, Conforto, Goodwin, Bellinger, Ohtani, Smith. These are, again, guys that I'd be upping projections in the optimizer. So when I go to the optimizer, very simple. Let's say I wanted to build on FanDuel. I can build on DraftKings too. It doesn't really matter. Come down here to the main slate. Make sure the date 8/19 is 8/19. And when that slate loads up, we're not going to have any real lineups in here. So this isn't really building anything yet. This may just be placeholders or something along those lines. Let's say you wanted to build, say, 50 lineups or so. We'll go to tournament mode because that mixes the players better. I don't use uniques. I can kick it down to server mode if I want. And I'm going to slide this randomization dude all the way over. That's how I do it. Maybe other guys do things a little bit differently, but this is how I do it. Then I'm going to start going position by position by position. And I'm going to start changing the guys that I like. Perhaps Garrett Cole, put an Adore on him. I don't mess with the other buttons that much. The guys that I want to see more of in my lineups, there we go. Okay? Now, in tournament play, I don't mess with pitchers too much. I'm just kind of showing you what I would do. Sometimes I may like a value pitcher a lot, and I'll bring him up. I don't know about these top-of-the-line guys. I don't believe that GPPs, I don't believe that expensive pitchers typically win the tournament. Now, if they go for 70, 80 points, they will. But generally speaking, they're going to get you 35, 40 points. They have high floors for cash games. They have upside to win tournaments, but I don't think they do it as often as getting the stacking part of the bats correct. Okay, so that's where I'm going to focus most of my energy. I'm going to scroll up here after I've liked and adored or whatever, smiley faced everybody. I don't even mess with exposures yet. I'm going to want to see these types of numbers filter in later today, the ownership projections. I'm going to want to consult some things like our leverage stacks, our chalkboard, etc. But if I want to do the new way of stacking, I go into the MLB stacking page and I'm going to kick off a lot of these combinations. I don't want a 3x3 on a big slate. I want 4x, 4-2, 4-3, 4-4 type stuff. 4-3 seems to be the most common winner. I'd put about 40% on those. I might put 20% here. I might put 10% here, and I might put 10% here. What, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 80. So I can up this even more to 20 here, 20 here. Now I've got 100% of my lineups stacked with at least a 4-player main stack. Some will be 4x1, 4x2, 4x3, 4x4, but that's how I'm going to do it. I would put maybe 1% on each team on the left side. I want my bigger teams on the left. And I want these to be the teams that I think I'm going to say. I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to go off tonight or Milwaukee. I want some exposure to them. What I'm going to wind up doing, though, is take the teams that I do know that I'm going to want. I said Cleveland, right? I might put them up to 15%. I might come down here, Minnesota at 10%. Chicago's another team, 10%. Who else? Houston be fine. Oakland facing Arizona, 10%. LA facing Seattle, maybe even 20%. These are LA and San Francisco may shoot out 10% each. Now I'm going to track this 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 65, 85%. 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100% stacks. That was just guessing. I was pretty good on the first shot. But I'm going to try to put more exposure to my favorite stacks. I want more of those stacks, okay? And I'll fine-tune this throughout the day. This is just a first run. I'm going to come down here and I'm actually going to kick off the stacks that I don't want. Let's say I don't want, you know, some of these other teams. I want to stick to 4 or 5 teams over here on this side of the stacking tool. And again, this is just first glance. I'm just kind of guessing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if I wanted to, I could put 10% each on those guys and get an even mix. I could put 5% on each of those guys and say, you know, 15% Yankees, 10% Chicago, 10% LA. This is what I'm going to control is the smaller side of my stacks. And on the smaller side of my stacks, I'm including the chalkier teams. I want less exposure to the chalk. I'm going to have less of a percentage of my lineups be chalky on the left side, and I'm going to use them a little bit more on the right side. This is how I set things up. We can talk about this more throughout the day if you want to inside the coaching channels. And I'll explain in more detail when I have more time. May even make a VIP type of video explaining more about how to set up the optimizer. But that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to click run, and I'm going to get a bunch of combinations of these guys, but it's going to be a lot of these teams are going to be in the combinations on a smaller scale, on a smaller portion. They're going to be my 2 stacks and my 3 stacks. And that's how I have found success with the optimizer. But another thing that I do all the time, I've only got a couple of minutes left here, so I've kind of got to hurry, is I'll go legacy controlled stacking, and I will run don't double stack it, just a big 4 stack, and I'll let the optimizer fill in the other side, a 2 stack or a 3 stack or whatever. If the optimizer sees projections and it wants to focus on a team over there, I'll let it because it sees something. And I'm going to include, by adding teams, all of the teams that I want stacks of. Okay? Maybe it's 3 teams. Maybe it's 10. Maybe it's all of them. Okay? So, but I'm going to do the same type of thing where I'm going to put on my high end, I'm going to put a lot of stacks, right? On my medium tier, I'm going to have less. I may have a couple that are even lower, and then I may round out with a bunch of 1% stacks just so I've got something of somebody that may be unforeseen and may go off in a bad matchup and catch the world by surprise. So I'm going to layer my ownerships and I'm going to layer my tiers. I'm going to organize my favorite stacks, my second favorite stacks, you know, my third, and then the rest or whatever. And I'm going to put this into this form. This percentage over here needs to add up to 100%. If you want 100% stacks, sometimes I'll let it add to 80%, and then I'll let 20% of the optimizer just do its thing. On FanDuel, that works. On DraftKings, it doesn't. On DraftKings, you need to focus on different stack formations, and we can help you there inside the coaching at dfsarmy.com. So if you want that type of coaching, want to learn this tool better, want to put yourself in a better position to win more tournaments from 3 max, 20 max, MME type stuff on up, you need to become a VIP at dfsarmy.com. Use the coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P. Get that 20% off discount. Like, subscribe, and notify yourself of videos dropping to your phone all the time, and we will teach you daily fantasy sports. This is Chopadong. This is Wednesday, August 19th, and I'm gone.